Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I am going to share with you the classics that I have on my shelf that I need to read. If you can believe it, we are coming to the close of 2024 and embarking on the beginning of 2025. And in 2025, I am hosting my own reading challenge here on my channel, and that is the Read the Classics Challenge. And the idea is to read a classic, a book written prior to 1975, easiest way to define it for now. People might quibble over what exactly a classic means, but we'll just go by that ease of definition. So anything before 1975. And we're going to read different prompts every month of the year. Plus I have some scavenger hunt items for every month and some challenge items. So for the month of January, the prompt is to read a book from your own physical TBR. So a book that you own on your shelf that is a classic that you haven't read yet. I guess it could be a reread, it doesn't really matter, but a book from your physical TBR. I have to share with you today a whole stack of books from my shelf. I took them all off my shelf, and these are all my classics that I have not yet read. So I will be choosing from this list to read in the month of January. And of course, this is kind of in lieu of my recommendations video for the prompt for the month. I don't know what is on your shelf, so I can't recommend which one of them you should start with. If you want to ask me in the comments, feel free to ask me in the comments. Tell me some of the books that you're interested in January that are on your shelf that you might want to read, and I'll let you know which one I think might be a good place to start if I've read them. But I'm going to show you the ones that I have that I'm going to be choosing from. Some of these I am more likely to pick than others, so let's start with the least likely options and work from there. First of all, we have this cute little copy of The Eustace Diamonds by Antony Trollope. I do want to read some Antony Trollope. It's on my goal to read him as an author. So I do need to read him. However, this is not at the beginning of a series. It is the third in a Palliser novels series. So I don't want to jump into the middle of a series. I think they probably could each be read individually, but I want to read the series in order, so I'm probably not going to start with that one. And then I have Alexander Solzhenitsyn, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. I've read some essays by Solzhenitsyn, which I really enjoyed, but I've not read any actual books by him. And this is a short one. I do want to read it. I will get to it eventually. It might be on my 50 by 50, I'm not sure. But anyway, I definitely want to read it. I just haven't yet. I feel like I say that a lot. And then I do want to read everything by Charles Dickens. I think I have read this. If nothing else, I've read a children's abridged version, but I may never have read the actual full-length novel, and that is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. I definitely want to read this, but this will be towards the end of my reading through everything by Dickens because I think I have read it before. So I'm going to hold off on that one until I've read for sure the ones that I know I have not read yet. This has been on my list a couple of times, but I'm definitely not going to get to it in January, and that is Areopagitica and Of Education, which are two essays by John Milton, and I have heard about both of them, and they sound so interesting, right up my alley of topics that I am passionate about, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's definitely going to require some intellectual involvement, and I'm not always up for that, so yeah. Not going to read it in January. And then we have War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, which again, definitely want to read this chunker of a book for sure. And I may get to it in 2025. It might be my book that I choose for Big Book Summer, but it's definitely not going to happen in January. That's for sure. I've read Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, but I have not read War and Peace. So that is on my shelf though. And I do want to get to this one at some point before the end of the school year, because this is my son's copy actually that he read earlier this year in school, and I want to read this and some of the other things that he is reading in school. This year he's studying ancient literature, so this is my my younger son. He's in 8th grade, so they read this copy of Greek myths actually over the summer. Last summer was their summer reading, and then it was the first book they discussed in this school year. So I do want to read that one at some point. I picked this one up recently at a bookstore, like a used bookstore, no, a library sale, and that's Goethe's Faust. And I didn't realize it was written in poetic style. So at least that's what it looks like. I don't think everything necessarily rhymes per se, but it's something that I've been wanting to read for a while, particularly since we did the Louisa May Alcott April last year, or earlier this year, I should say. And I learned how much that Goethe was an inspiration to Louisa May Alcott. And so I really want to read some works by him, Faust being one of them. Faust actually inspired, I think, two of Louisa May Alcott's adult novels. So I do want to read this, but I'm not going to read it in January. Then we have another epic poem, but in English this time. Evangeline, well, I mean, I'm going to read Faust in English too, of course, because I don't actually speak German as much as I would like to speak German. I have studied German, but there's no way I can read it in German. I'm reading it in English, but it wasn't written in English originally. This was originally written in English, and I'm going to read it in English. That is Evangeline by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I do like Longfellow, but I have not read this one. My sister read it this year or last year and enjoyed it for the most part. I don't think it was like her favorite thing ever, but she did enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to reading it at some point, but probably not in January. I have a couple of Shakespeare books on here. These are on my 50 by 50 for sure. And I'm hoping to get to them, you know, before I'm 50, but I've got a few years, so that doesn't mean I have to read them right this minute. And I am slowly working my way through all of Shakespeare's works. And I've read a lot, but he wrote so many, so it's going to take me a while at the rate that I'm going currently. But anyways, these books I will be reading over the course of the next few years. And the first one is Hamlet. And I have this nice hardback copy of the Folger Library, so I like that. And then this is Antony and Cleopatra, the paperback version of the same edition. And I also have Macbeth, which is an older version of the Folger Library edition. So I do like those because I like that they have, it's easy to glance across to the words to see the meanings or if there's any explanations or anything. I really like that format. It makes it very easy to read. And then I have, just because I feel like it's something that I should read, even though it doesn't particularly interest me greatly, and there's this huge sticker in the front of it. You can't see the title, but it is The Epic of Gilgamesh. And it's something I feel like I should read, but I haven't. And I will someday, but not in January. Another book that I want to get to this year that I believe is also my 50 by 50, and that is Mythology by Edith Hamilton. It just tells the basic story of each of the gods and goddesses of ancient Greece and Rome. So I do want to read that because it's very foundational to a lot of literature. I have read a couple of things by Henry James before, but I haven't read what is arguably his most famous work, and that is The Portrait of a Lady. But I do want to read it. I don't know, it's kind of, I'm not sure that it really interests me. I haven't gotten to it yet. I have liked what I have read by Henry James so far, but I've never had this one. I've never read this one, and I've never felt, you know, like, oh, like a mood to read it, you know, like, oh, I really want to read The Portrait of a Lady today. So haven't picked it up, but it's on my shelf and I will read it one day. And let's say it all together, but not in January. Another one that I need to get to in the earlier part of the year, but not January, is the, I don't know how you say it, Oedipus plays of Sophocles, which again, my son is reading, I think he read Oedipus or Oedipus the King, and I know they're reading Antigone. I don't know if they're reading this other one on there, but I do want to read those as well. I have read Antigone before, so that would be a reread. I don't think I've read the others, but I may have in high school. I remember reading Antigone in high school. I don't remember reading the others. And also on my list, my 50 by 50, I'm pretty sure, is A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And I picked up a copy. It's been on my TBR for a long time. I picked up a copy recently and I'm looking forward to reading it, but I haven't yet. And then I have 3 Dickens here. And again, I want to get to all of Dickens' works. And I'm probably going to have to read more than one a year in the next few years to accomplish my goals. So I have these 3 right here. The first one I want to get to, and this again will be at some point earlier next year, but probably not January, and that is The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens. That's the next Dickens on my list that I want to read, and I'm actually very interested in reading it. It seems like one of the ones that a lot of people love, by Charles Dickens, maybe not the most famous one, but one that people really enjoy reading. So I am looking forward to reading that one. And then A Tale of Two Cities, which I also am looking forward to. I think some people say that it is one of his more difficult books to read and to understand what he's doing in the book, but I do think it will be an interesting read nonetheless, and maybe one of his more in-depth books. So I'm looking forward to that. And then Martin Chuzzlewit, I know nothing about except that it's huge. So that will be a big book summer at some point over the next couple of years. Probably not this coming year though, because I have enough big books slated mentally for me to read. I don't know if I'll get to that one. I will get to Old Curiosity Shop though. And then I'll be talking more about this in another video, but The Count of Monte Cristo is slated for next year, but I think we're probably going to start it in February or March based on the feedback I'm getting in the polls that I'm running. So we will be reading this in the first and second quarter of the year at some point, but not in January. And that, I don't know if I said the title, that's The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, and I am looking forward to that. So I don't know what it is. There's like, for some reason, the camera is like really, I think it's because of the way the light is. Like it's capturing every flake of dust that's in the air, except that it's not really dusty. So I don't know what's going on here. It's very strange. Maybe it's, you know, all of these books that I got off the shelf. I don't know. It's very weird. But that's all the white floaty stuff in there. I think it's because of the light coming from the window. It's like you really can see them. It's very strange. Anyway, I do have some other classics, and they are currently tucked away in a box because they're on the shelf where I have my nativity scene set up right now. So I put them back in the Christmas box that the nativity scene was in. So I can't show you those. There are a couple of more, honestly can't remember at the moment what they are, but those are other classics that are on my shelf that I need to read at some point. But the one that I am definitely going to read in January, and I'm going to read it because, for two reasons. One, it's on my 50 by 50. It's something I've been wanting to read for a long time. I just haven't. And I'm a little bit intimidated by it, so I needed something to push me to read it. So that's why I put it on my 50 by 50. Also, it fits perfectly in January because not only do I need to read something from my shelf for the reading challenge that I'm hosting, but I'm also hosting Epistolary January in January. And I'm hosting it with some wonderful co-hosts, and I will link to them in the description box. But I want to read Pamela for that because it is an epistolary novel. And it was one of the, I don't know if it was one of the first in the genre, but it is definitely a prominent one in the early days of the epistolary genre and influenced the style of epistolary novels after it and the development of the English novel as a whole. So it has an important place in the echelons of English literature. And also, I think it's an interesting story. There are some things about it that I've heard about it and read about. Like I've actually read like a fair amount of analysis of this book without even having read it, just because I've come across it in reading about other things. And there are some aspects of it that make me kind of be like, is this story really worth reading? But I do want to read it. I do because the reasons that I mentioned, because I think it's an important book to read for those reasons. So I am going to read it, and I'm going to read it in January for Epistolary January. It is going to be my #1 goal for the month, and it will fulfill both of those challenges, at least parts of the Epistolary January challenge. So definitely making this one a priority in January. This is the one that I am going for. So I would like to know in the comments below if you have any other goals for what you are wanting to accomplish in the coming year as far as reading from your shelves and reading classics from your shelf. What classics do you have languishing on your shelf that you have not yet read? And which ones are you leaning towards reading in January if you are joining me in this challenge, which I hope you are. So I will have more information forthcoming about January and the Reading the Classics challenge, including the scavenger hunt and the challenge for the month. But I just wanted to share with you my videos that I had that I still haven't read yet that are classics on my shelf that I will be reading eventually, but not in January. I'll be reading this one, and I will see you all next time. Bye.